Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Wednesday race of the day, which is the feature race at Saratoga. Race 7 is the Birdstone, going the marathon distance of 1 mile and 3/4 on the dirt. And Mike, this race had been the domain of the dominant dirt marathoner Next over the past couple of seasons. That horse seemingly is on the sidelines in 2025, and it opens this race up to some new faces this year.
Absolutely, yeah. As always, this race is not really about who the best horse is. It's about who the best horse at the distance is. And I guess somewhat surprisingly, we have a horse in here who's already won at this distance.
Yeah, a couple horses who have experience at the distance, as Mike said. One horse who's won at this distance actually last time out. That is the number 2 Parchment Party, coming off an off the turf victory in the Belmont Gold Cup run at the 14 furlongs. With this being the DRF race of the day, do note you can get free past performances for this race and every race of the day. Really easy. Just create a free account or sign into your account at DRF.com, and you can access free PPs for every single race of the day, which includes Timeform US past performances. And speaking of Timeform US, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Birdstone. And Mike, for a dirt marathon, there are a couple of speed horses in this race. The number 4 Lambeth has done some of his best running on the front end, but the number 6 Digital Ops, he's shown speed in some mile and a 16th, mile and an eighth races, and that should translate to him being in front here if Irad Ortiz wants to get there.
I felt the same way about it. We'll see what they decide to do with Lambeth, who his best race so far. Talking about Lambeth here was when they did put him on the lead, but I don't think they have to ride him that way. Digital Ops, boy, they got really aggressive with him last time. It was only a 9 furlong race, but he ran really well in there on a solid pace.
Yeah, it is not easy to make the front from post 10 going 9 furlongs
Yeah.
at Saratoga. Digital Ops did that last time, so he can certainly make the lead over this distance. Let's go through the field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Strapped. And like, I think distance is okay for this horse. He's obviously not gone quite this far, but he did try a mile and a quarter, a mile and 3/8 over the winter at Aqueduct, albeit against weaker competition than he's going to meet here. I more question the current form a little bit because it feels like he's tailed off a little bit, and he is going out for a barn that's been in a bit of a slump lately.
Yeah, true enough. I mean, listen, this horse has won twice going a mile and a quarter. It's not the same thing, but at least you know that he can get, a distance of ground anyway. I'm with you though, David. I mean, I think he would need to run the race of his life to win here. And I just don't like his recent form, his last 2 starts in particular. And, maybe, handicappers have excuses for those. I really don't. I just don't think he ran that well.
As we said earlier, the number 2 Parchment Party, he's coming off a victory going this mile and 3/4 distance in the off the turf Belmont Gold Cup. We'll take a look at this race run late on Acorn Day, the race right the day right before the Belmont Stakes, when Saratoga took a lot of rain and that didn't seem to bother Parchment Party at all. He snuck in off the MTO list and was able to dominate this field of turf horses, or maybe some dirt horses that didn't want to go this far. Mike, some handicappers might look at this performance on the visual and on the form and say this horse just freaked on a sloppy track. I have a different take on it. Watching this horse's entire career, he just seemed like the kind of horse that they could not write races long enough for him. He's just a plotter who continues on at one pace. And personally, I kind of couldn't believe the bettors let him go at 7-1 last time when he got into that field, because it just kind of seemed like that was the perfect race for a horse like this. And he actually was coming in on some of the best dirt form of his career in some tough allowance races in Kentucky. This longer distance might have just opened up a new avenue for him.
Absolutely agree with you too that he went off at that price against, I mean, there were other MTOs in that race, but I mean, he clearly stood out in there, especially over the distance. But at the same time, and whether or not the sloppy track helped him, there were a lot of circumstances that conspired to him, running a really impressive race there. And so we'll just see if he can do it again, maybe under some different circumstances. I still think he's the horse to beat, because even if you take that race out of his PPs, not only has he run a bunch of good dirt races, but he's run a bunch of good dirt races against some quality competition. I hate his running style. It probably doesn't matter as much in a race like this one. He's the horse to beat.
And it probably is worth noting, Mike, you mentioned his running style. It worked last time. They went a pretty honest pace in that Belmont Gold Cup. We'll see how quick they go here. The number 3 Game Warden, he's a horse that certainly improved off the claim last summer when he's picked up for $50,000 by Flying P Stables and the Norm Cassie barn. He actually won a couple of races up here at Saratoga last summer, going the mile and an eighth distance. They tried some longer distances, Mike, over the winter at Oak Lawn Park, and then most recently at Churchill Downs. He picked up some minor awards in both of those races. Now he's coming off a minor layoff going even farther.
Yeah, a little bit more distance here, and we'll just see. I'm not going to say he can't win here, David. I think there's probably a pretty good trip coming for him too, because if they go in front of him, and it seems like a couple of horses could show speed in front of him, I think he will get the right trip in here. As much as he's run well at Saratoga and that his last couple of races are fine, I don't really know that this horse is good enough to win this race, assuming some of his major rivals show up with their good race. And maybe they won't do it, and he will. I don't know. I'll just wait and see what kind of price he is, because just on the the first run through this race and handicapping this race from top to bottom, I don't like this horse that much.
I mean, he does have some common form lines with the horse we'll take a look at next, the number 4 Lambeth. They actually faced off against each other the 2 times that each of them tried dirt marathons, in that Temperance Hill and then the Isaac Murphy at Churchill Downs. And obviously, Lambeth was way better than Game Warden when he won the Temperance Hill. But Mike, Lambeth took a step backwards in the Isaac Murphy. We talked about the pace situation of this race. A horse tried to contest the early lead with him, actually got in front of him in the middle portions of that race, and Lambeth kind of backed up from there. I did think he kind of bounced back on the turf last time, which probably isn't his preferred surface. So maybe that's a positive indicator that he's getting back into form now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it makes any difference. I'm with you. I thought he actually ran pretty well on turf going long last time. And I don't love the ride, I guess, that he got 2 starts back when he lost. I just wasn't really thrilled with the way that they handled him in there. And I'm not suggesting, I at least the way that I look at him, I don't think he needs the lead to be effective, but you still have to make a decision whether you're going to go or not. When he won that race 3 starts back, I just think he ran really well in there, David. And I like that, at least on that day, his rider made a real decision that he was going to make the lead in that race. And he did. And then I just thought he never really gave that field a chance in there. I thought that was a good performance. I had liked some of his prior races anyway. And I think he showed that he can handle distance in that Temperance Hill. I think he's a pretty dangerous horse in here.
The number 5, Time for Trouble, is actually trying the Birdstone for the 3rd year in a row. He's had some experience going this distance. I think he was second to next back in 2023. Got pulled up in this race last year. And Mike, he's now an 8-year-old. Even disregarding last year's Birdstone, his recent form just has not been up to the standard that he set a couple of years ago. And while distance seems fine for this horse, I wonder if he's still this good.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like he's the same horse that he was. And, if you just go back, I guess you got to go back a couple of years now, but if you just go back in his form, I mean, he's the kind of horse who could do anything. He could run on any surface. He could go any distance. He was just a really, really cool horse. I don't think he's that horse anymore, but there are still some things to like about him. If you think he still has it in him, he's going to be a great price in here.
The number 6, Digital Ops, is kind of a new face at this distance as he stretches out beyond a mile and 3/6, or a mile and an eighth, I should say, for the first time in his career. Now, Mike, this horse ran really well in his most recent start at Saratoga. We mentioned the difficult post position that he had, having to go forward from post 10. He was able to make the front, not an easy thing to do. And he leads until the top of the stretch when he's reeled in by his stablemate, Malarchuk, a horse who's just in a really good form right now. And these two put a lot of separation on the rest of this field. The 100 buyer that he earned for this performance stacks up very favorably against these. He just has to contend with the stretch out in distance, Mike. But I will say, when you watch this replay, you'll notice this horse has a big, long stride on him. He's got the profile of a horse that should be suited to a distance like this, and speed could play well in this kind of race.
I agree. I also just feel like he deserves maybe even some extra credit for that race that we just watched there, because as you mentioned, to make the lead from post 10 is not easy going that distance at Saratoga. They sent him, I read, just absolutely sent him from the gate and rode him. So he had to work hard to get there. Once he got there, he never had a breather. He had horses just stacked up alongside him up the backstretch. Meanwhile, his entry mate there's just sitting a perfect trip in behind him there waiting. And this horse really put up a fight through the stretch too. I thought he ran great last time.
Let's go to picks for this Wednesday race of the day, the Birdstone. And Mike, you're going to try to get Lambeth to bounce back to that Temperance Hill effort from 3 starts back, because if he's able to repeat that performance, he's tough here.
That race will give him a shot in here. I just sort of wanted to give him a chance to run it, David, because he won't be the favorite in this race. And it's not like I'm, way against Parchment Party. I think he's the horse to beat, but I just felt like maybe he'd get over bet off of that most recent win there, which, I guess if you wanted to poke holes in it, you could. I still think he's the horse to beat in here. I'm going to try to beat him with the 4.
Yeah, as you can see from my picks, I didn't love the horses from the Temperance Hill or the Isaac Murphy, and I wanted to go in a different direction. I do think Digital Ops could be dangerous from the front end, but I just think Parchment Party has found his new niche, going these marathon distances on the dirt, and I'm not too worried about the running style, given how far this race is and how long he'll have to make up the ground. 2, 6, 3, 4 for me, 4, 2, 6, 3 for Mike in the Wednesday race of the day, the Birdstone at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.